Mars crosses her arms and sulks.
What is the point of having all these kudos if I can't actually use them to, buy stuff we need? Hello? It's not like I can mail order more supplies through the wormhole.
Tangent frowns.
I just don't understand.
She says.
Why now? Why does it keep getting worse?
Dis is examining a bit of rubble, turning it over in his hands.
I wonder if we're gonna find, alien tech.
He says.
Wouldn't that be cool? I know it's hard.
Cal says, fiddling nervously with the tassel on his shirt.
But I just think, what would your mom do right now? She wouldn't complain, that's for sure.
It's been hard to talk to your dad about everything. Losing your mom, and losing the colony right after. It's too much to take. Neither of you know what to say. Engineering is crammed with families and what belongings they've salvaged from the destroyed living quarters. You could spend time in your crowded temporary lodging in the classroom, or help the adults try to fix things. Mourn. The first month of quiet passes, each day plodding one after the other. You continue to have trouble sleeping in the classroom barracks, but there's just nowhere else to go. Every day you wake up with the others and try to make the best of it. Grief and anger come in waves, not just for you, but for everyone. Some days are better than others. A mass funeral is held for the people who died in the attack. Unlike the funerals you've been to in the past, there are too many dead to hold a service in the recycling room. Their bodies are laid out in neat rows in the canteen instead. More dead people than you've ever seen at once. Outside of a holovid, Utica usually leads the colony's funerals. Instead, her frail body lies under a pale blue sheet among the dead. Chief Administrator Seek leads the ceremony. When Calm's name is mentioned, Moni lets out a choking sob and throws her arms about her mother and her remaining brothers.
Why did he have to die?
She wails, her grief punctuating the otherwise solemn crowd.
It's not fair! It's not fair!
Aunt Anne tries to calm her down, but Moni breaks away and runs over to Calm's body. No one has the heart to stop her. She pulls something from her pocket, the bracelet she made for Calm's birthday.
You forgot this?
She sniffles and lifts the sheet to tie it on his wrist. Then she rests her head on his unmoving chest, giving him one last hug. After the names are read and the bodies moved to the recycling room, people gather for an informal memorial. It's awkward at first with the lingering miasma of grief heavy on everyone's thoughts. But eventually, someone breaks out a guitar and the tension ebbs. Your dad stays until the particle disintegrators have finished their work, then slips away to deliver the remains back to the soil. Follow him. Your dad seems grateful for the company. The last time he did this, the first time he did this, was for your mother. It feels like years ago now. You watch him respectfully tip them into the precious brown dirt that remains, then help him turn it with rakes to incorporate them, literally into the future of the colony. He stands with you when you're done, offering them one last moment of silent thanks. The suns finally dawn again on your birthday. You wake early and climb to the top of engineering to watch the first sun's watery rays break the horizon as the wormhole recedes across the sky. Dawn should represent hope after a long period of darkness, but this light only reveals the full extent of the damage to the colony. You've been having trouble sleeping, like most people. It's hard to find rest, crammed into the classroom with all the other kids and their families, and every time you close your eyes, you see. You shake your head to clear the memories. You pull your blanket more tightly around your shoulders. Not your blanket. That one's gone. And stare out as the sun rises on the horizon, meager and sickly.
Hey, kiddo.
You hear. Then your dad comes and sits down beside you.
I was looking for you. Nice view, huh? At least we got a rooftop patio out of the deal.
He laughs a little at his own joke, then just sort of trails off with a sigh afterward. He puts his arm around your shoulders and you sit in silence for a while, watching the sunrise pick out all the broken glass littering the fields, glimmering like a field of stars. Neither of you really know what to say. It's clear your dad feels like he has to give you a pep talk, but there's an oppressive nature to the silence that makes it feel impossible for either of you to start. Eventually, he just sighs and his shoulders slump.
I know things seem pretty bad right now,
He says, squinting into the sunrise. It sounds like it's taking all his effort not to cry.
but it'll get better. It has to, right?
You're not so sure,
At least your mom wasn't here to see this.
he mutters.
That's the silver lining, I guess.
You watch the sunrise together for a few more minutes. After a bit, your dad musters up a brave smile and pulls out a little box tied with a piece of gardening twine.
Happy birthday, my little rutabaga.
He says. You know what it is before you open it. Your old medallion. The one your dad made, with the sun on it to represent Earth. It was broken during the attack. In all the chaos, you didn't even notice. But your dad did, and made you a new one. It's just like he remembered. A similar design with a wormhole this time, to represent Vertumna. You thank him, and squint out all the swirling wormholes still barely visible in the brightening sky. It's so massive and awe-inspiring this time of year, but it always seems to herald disaster. You're happy to watch it fade away into the daylight. Your dad slaps you on the back.
What a birthday, huh? Here's hoping they all get better from here.
You both head back downstairs to the wreckage of the canteen, where they've put up temporary roofing with whatever tarps and scraps could be found. The colony nanoprinters, the few that still run, have been working day and night to replace the necessities of life, but larger construction projects are going to take some time. Aunt Anne has coaxed the kitchen nanoprinters into making soy gruel and pressed bars, life-sustaining but depressing. You and the other colonists eat your breakfast in stony silence as you mentally prepare for the day. Chief Administrator Seek has taken over as interim governor until the council can elect someone new. Repair on the walls is in progress. There's talk of building them taller and thicker, but you just don't have the resources to both improve the walls and rebuild the living quarters at the same time. There's still so much to do. You're assigned to help out in geoponics. The agriculturists have been hard at work trying to salvage what they can of the ruined fields and the destroyed greenhouses. But there's still a lot of work to be done. Your dad has taken over as chief cultivator. Succeeding your mom was already difficult for him. And now, there's this. He's never been the kind of guy to hide from hard work, but he's been pretty distant lately. Cal's working in geoponics too, of course. He smiles when he sees you.
Hey, Sol. There's lots of stuff to do. What do you want to work on?
Work in the fields. You and Cal are set to work in the fields. Luckily, they were mostly empty during Glow. But quiet is supposed to be the season of planting. With the deep compacted trenches where the massive faceless stomped all over the colony defenders, the fields are now in worse shape than when you landed. You are set the task of aerating the soil. You and Cal trade off. One of you guiding a bot with a dangerous-looking aeration extension, while the other uses a shovel and sometimes a pickaxe to loosen the soil and dig out pieces of debris. Then there's the spark snow. It will raise the soil acidity if it sits long enough to melt, and your earth crops hate that. When you're not aerating the soil, you're trying to keep it from piling up. There are tarps laid out over the fields, but shoveling the snow from the tarps is back-breaking work too. It's exhausting. Everyone is worried that this will be the final nail in the coffin for your food supply after the famine last year. You try not to think about it too hard, instead focusing on just doing what you can to help rebuild. You're eating in the mess tents when you hear something rumbling. Your bowl and cutlery start rattling. People look around in alarm. Could it be another attack? So soon? You begin to hear shouting from outside. Someone runs into the tent.
There's something falling from the sky.
They shout.
It's on fire.
You join the crowd of people leaving your temporary structures to gather in the colony square. People are squinting up into the milky, quiet sunlight, pointing and gesturing wildly. It's impossible to miss the thing hurtling towards you from space. Like a great big ball of fire, coming straight for you. Is this it? Is this the end? After all you've been through, a meteor's gonna land in the middle of your already ruined colony and kill you all? Mars grabs your shoulder.
It's another ship!
She exclaims.
Look! It's another spaceship from Earth!
Excitement ripples through the crowd. Could it be? You stare up, unbelieving at the rapidly approaching ship. The flames of its entry into the atmosphere dissipate, but a thick column of greasy black smoke trails behind it. Soon you can hear the whistle of it ripping through the atmosphere at terminal velocity. It's coming right at us! It's an enormous ship coming at you way too fast. The ship's reverse thrusters fire, trying to slow it down so it doesn't smash into a billion pieces when it hits the planet. Everyone scatters to take cover. You crouch behind some rocks, throw your arms over your head, and squeeze your eyes shut. You hear the massive spaceship touch down in geoponics, plowing through the fields and grinding over what was left of the greenhouses. You're thrown into the ground from the force of the impact as shrapnel and small rocks zing past your head. It grinds along like some roaring monster, cutting a great scar through the colony and kicking up an enormous cloud of dust. Finally, the ship comes to a creaking, shuddering halt. You and the other colonists carefully crawl out of your hiding spaces, coughing and rubbing your eyes. The new ship is half buried and obscured by dust, but you can tell it's from Earth. You squint to make out stenciled letters. Heliopause. A hatch opens in its side and silhouettes begin to emerge. Silhouettes with guns. Soldiers march out of the dust and quickly surround all the remaining colonists. More soldiers form two parallel lines from the ship to the square, their guns in parade rest, and a lone figure strides down the center towards you.
Greetings, fugitives from Earth.
The man says, spreading his hands wide. A dismayed murmur ripples through the crowd. The adults exchange significant looks. Chief Engineer Instance tries to slip out of the crowd, but she's stopped by the line of soldiers. The man smiles. He has a broad, easygoing smile that doesn't match the threatening aura of the soldiers, nor the smoking ruin of the ship behind him.
I am Commander Lum.
He says proudly.
As captain of the Heliopause, I have come to render aid and bring you to justice.
Listen with the others. Seek steps forward out of the crowd.
You're not the commander of the Heliopause,
They say, firmly.
Governor Udicott was expecting Commander Morikawa.
Everyone is surprised. Udicott had been in communication with this ship? For how long?
I am captain of the Heliopause,
Lum repeats stubbornly, then adds,
according to the chain of command. We, sustained significant losses of personnel when we went through the wormhole.
You can't help but notice many of the soldiers exchanged looks this time. You wonder how many people had to die before Lum became commander.
As the commanding officer,
Lum continues.
I declare this colony to be under our protection. As such, you are all now subject to the laws of Earth.
Seek bows.
Now,
They stammer.
there's no need for dramatics. We're a diminished colony, as you see. Governor Udicott died in the most recent attack, and Fluorescent passed away a few months ago. Even Technician Halitosis is gone. You see, we're quite leaderless.
Wait, your mom? What would these Earth cops have wanted with your mom? You notice Chief Engineer Instance is being held with her arms behind her back. She glowers at Lum with unbridled hatred. Lum turns to the assembled colonists.
Well, why don't we fix that?
He declares.
Say hello to your new governor.
You hear a few gasps of shock and outrage, and Lum raises his hands placatingly.
Let's not pretend you don't need our help.
He says,
And we could simply arrest you instead. There's no need to demoralize your little colony further.
judging from the number of guns on display, you don't think you have a choice in this. No one knows how to react. A new governor from Earth? Nearly 100 new colonists? Most of them trained soldiers? What does this mean for the colony? The crowd disperses slowly, and the council members follow Lum back into the Heliopause, presumably to talk about the future of the colony. You hope. You track down your friends.
So, what do you think about these new people?
Mars asks. I don't want to share this planet.
I don't mind sharing,
Cal chimes in.
but we don't really have anything left to share. We were already barely hanging on, and did you see what they did to the fields? They're all torn up even worse now.
The entire colony, now twice as many of you, sets to work on salvaging the wreckage of the Heliopause, tearing it down and combining it with the Stratospheric's remaining engine section. Spirits are high, though these new colonists from the Heliopause aren't like any people you've ever met before. With their uniforms and weapons, they are more like an invading force than a rescue. You weren't sure what this means for the colony, or for your future. As the dust settles, you rebuild your colony around this new ship, the Heliopause. The new arrivals, soldiers, mainly are aloof at first. Many see you as fugitives. Together, you build new walls, living quarters, greenhouses, and a massive bunkered garrison. The Stratos Engineering Wing is the only reminder of your old colony. The Heliopause brought enough rations for another 5 years, as well as a rich seed bank and working hydroponics. Finally, in an end to slow the starvation you felt for years, they also have more guns and explosives than you've ever seen in your life. Even the ship has guns. A full stomach, a roof over your heads, and the promise of safety convinces most strato-colonists to accept the Helios. In turn, the Helios decide that you criminals pose little threat. A grudging peace is brokered between the two groups. You decide they aren't so different, really. There are even Helio children born among the stars just like you. After a month of hard work, you and your dad move into your new quarters, and you have your own bedroom for the first time in your life. You place a picture of your mother on the shelves beside your bed. You step out onto your very own balcony to watch the new colony, its grounds bustling with so many strangers and strange new ideas. You feel something rising in your chest that you haven't felt in some time. Hope. Excitement. What will the new day bring? You better get out there and find out. Cautiously step outside. You had plans to hang out with Cal today, but when you arrive at the geoponics dome, it's worryingly dark inside. You fumble around in the red emergency lighting until all the lights come back on with the heavy ka-chunk of a breaker being flipped. You blink into the sudden blinding light until the figures of Cal and Chief Engineer Instance resolve themselves in your vision.
Absolutely no more of that, young man.
Instance scolds Cal as he cradles his hoverboard in his arms.
The power grid is not your plaything.
I understand, Auntie.
Cal says.
I'm sorry.
Instance mutters to herself as she passes you.
Honestly, all of this over a toy.
Hey, bud.
Cal greets you.
Sorry, I'm meant to meet you outside after work, but
He looks down at his hoverboard.
my board wouldn't start, and I figured it was maybe out of juice. But when I plugged it in, it threw off all these sparks, and then the whole power grid shut down.
Cal's shoulders slump.
I was gonna ask Dr. Instance to take a look at it, but she told me she doesn't have time to fix a dumb toy.
I'm sorry, Cal. That sucks.
Yeah,
Cal sighs.
it's just,
Cal rubs his eyes.
we've only got a few things left from when we were kids, you know? Everything else is broken, or gone, or dead.
It's always kind of sad when a piece of old technology needs to be retired, but Cal seems to take this one harder than most. He hugs the hoverboard to his chest and excuses himself, not waiting to hear your goodbye. Tang almost doesn't notice you approach. She is staring into the distance, almost as if she's gone into sleep mode with her eyes open. She blinks out of her daze when she hears your footsteps.
Oh, Sol,
She says,
it's only you. What do you need?
this new boy from the heliosphere is a couple years older than you. He's very handsome, and the missing arm gives him a heroic battle-scarred vibe. He stands tall and ready for action, even though it's a normal, boring day. The other recruits milling around the garrison give him a wide, respectful berth. He sees you staring and gives you a curt nod.
My name is Vase, Lieutenant Olivacious.
He says, considering you with a glint of challenge in his eye.
I knew you are.
How do you introduce yourself? I'm a hard worker. His expression doesn't change.
Is that right?
He says, with the air of a boy who's hard to impress.
Nice to meet you, Sol. I hear it's been a rough couple of years for the colony. Lucky thing our helipass came along just in time.
He continues.
Don't worry, we have some of the best soldiers, the very best. We'll keep the colony safe.
We were doing just fine before you came. He raises an eyebrow.
When we landed,
He sneers.
this place looked like it had been overrun by wild animals. Or was that just the aesthetic you were going for?
Being planetside is totally different. You tell Base that firing a virtual gun is nothing compared to running for your life through the jungle while a wild Unisaur hunts you down.
A unisaur?
Base says, leaning forward a little, his eyebrows raise. Did you actually say something to interest him?
That sounds like a fun sport. I'd like to try it sometime.
Moni doesn't say anything as you approach.
You've seen Nomi around since the heliopause landed.
They are around your age and barely 1.5 meters tall, only coming up to your shoulder. You've never seen anyone dress as strangely as they do.
Hi!
Their voice is high-pitched and quick.
I'm Nomi. It's short for nomination.
They do a little twirl and bow. You introduce yourself and ask about their outfit.
Oh, this old thing? I designed it myself. A Nomi original based on the outfit Lavendula Starlifter wears in the 3rd season of Turbo Hyperjet Transform when she has to work undercover as the lead singer of an idol group.
They stick out their leg.
Only I changed the bottom part, and of course I have to wear my gaming gauntlets. I call them gaming gauntlets, but they're really on virus suit gloves that I modded so I could play holo games through them. Do you like games? My faves are Laser Fable and Dig Digger Dog. Laser Fable is so much more fun now that we can play outside our room to run around. What kind of holo games do Strata kids like to play?
Nomi stops to catch their breath, winded after their extended outburst. Challenge them to a game of Laser Fable.
You're on!
Nomi helps you install it on your holopalm and explains the rules. Laser Fable is an augmented reality game where you bounce hologram lasers off real objects nearby. It's speed-based, so you're running around and jumping into each other, and there are extended house rules about when it's legal to block each other's lasers.
Right on, friendo!
Nomi gives you a high five, then with a couple quick flicks of their gauntlet gives you a kudos for winning. They explain this is how they always play Laser Fable with the kids from Heliosphere.
Except they mostly don't want to play anymore. They say they're too old for it. They just want to be soldiers now. Except Rex. He's still cool.
The colony's full of new people. Everywhere you look, you see a stranger. It's disorienting after growing up in a closed spaceship. You never expected to meet any other humans that weren't made here on Vertumna. You bump straight into one of these new people while you're jogging through the colony. Oof. He laughs and holds you steady, brushing the imaginary dust off you and giving you a wide, fanged smile. Hey, it's one of those kids from the heliopause. You think his name is Rex.
Hey, what's up?
You play it cool, give him a little nod. You notice he's wiggling his dog ears. They can really move independently.
Pleased to meet you,
he says.
I'm Rex.
Rex puts his hand against his cheek, looking cute and lost.
Hey, since I'm new here, do you think you can help me find the construction yard? I thought I might apply for a job there.
I'll take you there. You walk him over to command.
Everything's moved around since the heliopause landed.
But the construction yard is still in command where it always was. At the entrance, you meet Mars, filing her nails and looking like she's waiting for somebody.
Why, hello, cutie.
She says to Rex.
Where did you come from?
He looks her up and down and grins.
I'm just an angel who fell from the sky, darling.
You try not to gag as the two of them flirt. You give them a loud ahem and point Rex toward the construction yard. He looks back at Mars over his shoulder and winks as he leaves. Rex hasn't gotten used to life on the surface yet. You remember your first year. Vertumna seems so enormous, so full of dangers and mysteries. Well, it still does, but the shock eventually wore off. Rex still has that slightly bewildered look on his face every time he walks outside and the sunlight hits his face. It's so bright and warm. I got you a present. Rex howls with happiness as he takes the mushwood from you.
You remembered my birthday and brought me the perfect stick for my collection.
Mars is poring over a real book with real paper. You crowd around it to take a look at it.
This belongs to that new kid. Nomi?
Mars says, lilting her voice like a question.
I told them I was looking for someone to draw designs for my new fashion line, and they just handed me this.
The book is filled with character designs, giant robots, and pictures of characters kissing.
It's so good,
Mars says, turning the pages.
This is what we need here. People with talent.
Even though it hurts, you find yourself wandering over to geoponics.
It feels not good to be here, in the place your mom loved and ultimately gave her life to. But not good either.
It feels like when you have a bruise and you can't stop yourself from pushing on it because the pain reminds you the injury is real. Like your mom dying is this huge invisible wound, and poking at it forces you to feel something instead of just being numb. Your dad is taking time off of work. Your parents worked double and triple shifts during growing season this year. And now that it's over, it just feels so cruel. When people work hard, they should be able to look back on what they did and feel proud. Instead, there's just this huge gap where your mom should be. You find your dad sitting in your mom's personal garden. It's miraculously starting to grow again, despite being trampled flat during the last attack and neglected during the famine before that. Still, various Vertumnum flowers are starting to sprout, as well as hardier earth ones, like dandelions. Your dad looks up and musters a smile. He pats the bench beside him. Talk to him. You false start a few times. It's almost impossible to think of something to say when there's this magnitude of grief between you. He gives you time. When it's obvious that you want to talk but don't know what to say, he takes your hand in his two larger ones.
Did I ever tell you about how your mom and I started dating?
You shake your head. You knew they grew up together in the first colony on Earth, but nothing about their relationship. He smiles and looks at the garden as he remembers.
I always thought she was too cool for me,
he says quietly.
Things were... well, people didn't like us much on Earth, so she was always kind of a bruiser, always ready to pop off even when she was your age. She and Rhett were the same back then.
He reminisces.
I always thought they were going to end up together. Then, your mom got injured when the first colony was attacked. I was working part-time in the clinic, and I guess that's when she realized I liked her. We had to apply to get on the stratospheric.
He continues.
We'd only been seeing each other a few weeks, so I was surprised when she said we should apply as a couple. They wanted all kinds of family groups. Single people, couples who could have kids or couldn't, triads and quads. But we all had to be young. And there weren't many teenagers willing to commit to being a, mated pair. It upped our chances of being picked.
He laughs and scrubs his face with his hands.
She wanted to get off that planet more than anything. I don't think she realized she'd fallen in love with me until we were already in space.
He says, wryly.
Lucky for me, right?
Your dad shakes his head fondly.
There aren't many people like your mom, kiddo.
You nod, surprised to feel a tear trickle down your cheek. There's so much you don't know about her and what she was like, more than just being your mom. It's really hitting you that she was a person before you knew her, and now you'll never know her like that. There's a past you'll never fully know, just like there's a future that she never will. Your dad puts an arm around your shoulders, and you sit like that for a long, long while. Like every pollen season, your dad gets the shimmer. The pollen is bad this year. Thick, heavy clouds of pink. Even your eyes are a little itchy, and your dad's not the only colonist spending the week in bed. You can hear other people sneezing as you walk through the quarters, bringing him hot trippet soup.
Thanks, kiddo.
Your dad rasps. At least he's sitting up in bed now.
Your mom never got sick, not ever.
Your dad reminisces.
I'm not sure she missed a day of work from the day we landed until the day she...
He stops and sighs.
I miss your mom. I wish Instance would find a cure already.
He grumbles, his hands shaking as he lifts his spoon.
3 years, and all she can suggest is bed rest and fluids. What good is all her researching if it can't fix my headache?
Your dad must be feeling really sick. He never complains about stuff. You check his temperature with your hollow palm, then dim the lights and bring him a cold pack for his forehead. He has a crust of glittery pink gunk around his lips, looking cracked and gross, so you wipe it away. The glitter is just everywhere on him, like it's coming right out of his pores. He looks iridescent in the murky light, filtering through the pollen outside.
Hey, do you mind opening the window a little? For some fresh air? Smells like a sick person in here.
He grumbles, pushing away soup and rolling over in bed. Don't open the window. The pollen might already be everywhere already, but there's no sense making it worse. You pretend to crack the window for him, and by the time you look over, he's asleep again. The worst part of the pollen fog subsides in a few days, and your dad starts to look a little better. He gets back to work, which is good because there's a lot to do in order to rebuild the colony and get the heliopause's hydroponics up and running. You're still sweeping glittering dust out of your quarters weeks later. That stuff gets everywhere. Jess looks haunted with dark circles etched deep under his eyes.
Why bother?
He mutters, pulling his sleeves over his hands fitfully.
Why are we... They're just going to come again. It's pointless. Living is pointless.
Geoponics is abuzz with activity. Repairs to the domes are underway, the fields are being replanted, and hydroponics from the heliopause are being installed. Work on the farm. You're pulling weeds in the garden when you hear raised voices coming from the barn. Socks barn. Cal is standing in front of the doors, blocking Vase from entering.
What do you mean I can't go in there?
Vase spits.
What? This colony has top secret clearance now.
You just can't, okay?
Cal sputters. Vase tries to get around him, but Cal wedges himself between Vase and the door again.
Why do you even need to anyway?
Vase shoves Cal hard.
I'm on patrol, bullhead. I don't give a shit what's in the barn. But all of a sudden, I care a lot about why you don't want me in there.
Cal shoots you a look of pure fear. Socks must be out of her box. What do you do? Slip around back and let Socks out. You sneak around to the other side of the barn and unlatch the window. Socks raises her head at the strange sound, and you beckon her to make a break for it. Socks shoots past you. Oh, she's huge! And you're buffeted as she pulls her long, long body out through the window and clatters up to the side of the barn to the roof. You panic. Someone's going to see her. No, Socks! Come down and hide! You whisper a gesture to the shelter of the barn wall. She tilts her head at you and crawls back down the wall, sticking easily to it with her feet. There must be 10 pairs of them now, at least. Socks curls up beside you, her great big dinosaur head in your lap. Through the window, you hear the sound of Vase searching the barn. You hold your finger to your lips in a shushing motion at Socks. You hope she understands. After a few tense minutes, you hear the barn door close and the sound of Vase's boots crunching down the garden path. Socks slithers her great body through the window again, and you go around front to meet Cal. Cal closes the barn door and heaves a sigh of relief.
That was close.
He mutters, wiping his forehead.
Did you know you can still stress sweat even if you're always at right temperature?
He leans his back against the door.
It's getting harder to keep Socks a secret,
he admits.
There's so many people here now, and she looks like that.
Socks curls up and rests her great big head on Cal's lap, looking up at him with an adoring expression. He rubs her nose and scritches behind her frill.
When you saw the wild dillypiller eating those rocks, what did it look like?
He asks. You tell Cal what you remember of the great beast, that even from a distance you could tell it was at least as long as the whole colony raw, that it ate boulders like soy sweets. Back when Socks was a baby caterpillar, you almost didn't recognize them as the same species, but looking at her now, you know that she's got the blood of dragons in her. Cal bites his lip.
I was afraid you'd say that,
he says softly.
What are we gonna do?
Helios have replaced the old garrison dojo with a huge underground bunker. It's much larger and better supplied, and abuzz with activity. Soldiers drilling, weapons being cleaned and inventoried, and animals herded into cages for study. You can't believe how many soldiers are down here. It must be the safest place on the planet. Play sports ball. You're not sure what to expect when you finally muster the courage to go back to the sport ball pitch after the big attack. Just passing by it reminds you of losing calm. It all feels so senseless and uncaring. Security Chief Red is here to address you all before you get back to practice. You sit on the bleachers next to Moni to hear what he has to say.
No one feels the loss of kombucha more than everyone on this sports ball pitch right now.
Red says, solemnly.
You are the ones who knew him best, and the ones he loved the most.
You hear Moni take in a shaking breath beside you. Comfort her. You wrap your arm around Moni's shoulders, and she leans against you. She's trembling. Rhett clears his throat.
Kombucha gave his life in the hope that the people of this colony could one day live in peace. You honor his memory by being here today to continue to play the game he loved. From now on, I'll coach sports ball in his place.
Moni shoots to her feet.
You're not calm!
she yells.
You'll never be as good as him! He's dead because of you!
The rest of the kids mutter, some in agreement, and others amazed at Moni's audacity. Rhett only looks sad, holding his hands out for silence.
Comb's death affects us all.
He says,
I feel your pain, because it's mine as well. Let's turn that energy to the field, okay? You wouldn't want to stop playing sports ball because of him.
no one feels up to forming teams and playing against each other, so you just work on skills today. Your heart's not in it, and neither is Moni's. She sits by herself and doesn't want to talk to anyone. You're scrolling through a holo novel behind the desk when Tangent comes in. She pauses and looks uncomfortable when she sees you and Mars looking at her, and quickly disappears into the shelves. You and Mars shrug. A few minutes later, Tang comes up to the counter and drops a fistful of candy. She shifts from foot to foot as you ring her up, jostling up and down and rubbing her stomach.
I also need something from behind the counter,
she says, quietly.
Some medicine.
You ask her what she needs, and she mumbles the name. You can't hear her.
Can you repeat that?
She mumbles it again, a little louder. Mars stifles a giggle.
I'm sorry, what?
Tang rolls her eyes.
Stars!
She curses.
I need fart pills, okay? The stupid alien bacteria and all the weird native food makes my stomach upset.
OMG!
Mars laughs.
You have blue gut? Really? Tang the Perfect has blue farts?
Tang crosses her arms and looks miserable. You give Mars a questioning look.
Blue gut?
Mars says.
You know, when you keep farting and farting all this, blue dusty stuff?
Mars leans over the counter to get a better look at Tang's backside.
Oh no,
she says dramatically.
White was not the best color to wear today, Tangent. Your butt's as blue as Soul's hair.
Mars cackles as Tang anxiously cranes her neck to look at her rear.
Liar.
Tang mumbles, not meeting your eyes.
Just give me the pills, please. I don't want to talk about my stupid body.
Don't say a word.
You jab Mars in the ribs before she can make any more jokes and ring up Tang's request without another mention. You hand over the bag and Tang shoots you a grateful smile before leaving the depot, looking a little more relieved than when she came in. Moni doesn't say anything as you approach. Here, I got something for you. Moni gives you a little smile as she accepts the egg.
Thank you for remembering my birthday, Soul. It's hard without Calm here.
Moni doesn't notice you approach. She's focused intently on the document on her holopalm, chewing on her nail as she reads through the small print. She jumps when she sees you, looking momentarily guilty.
Oh, hey, Soul! I was just looking over some stuff. The Helios have got all these documents you have to sign if you wanna.
She trails off, biting her lip.
I'm gonna sign up to join with the Helios.
She says, hesitantly.
But there's a part where if you're under 18, you have to have a parent's permission just to sign up as a reservist. And
Moni looks down at the ground and scuffs her shoe in the dirt.
my mom's gonna be so mad.
She mumbles.
So mad. Like, she's probably gonna cry, and it'll be this whole stupid thing, and
She takes a deep breath.
but I gotta do it. I just gotta do something.
She'll understand if you explain,
Yeah, I hope so.
Moni says.
I'm gonna tell her that if she doesn't let me sign up, I'm just gonna run into battle the next time the aliens come, and, well, it'd be better if I knew what I was doing. I'm not gonna get caught off guard again.
Anemone says, setting her jaw.
When they come back, I want to be able to fight them with everything I got. No one else has to die like Calm.
Moni gestures angrily to dismiss the holoscreen and puts her face in her hands. She crouches down small, pressing her head against her knees, and takes an anguished breath.
Goddamn aliens.
She says,
Bunch of dumb, dinosaur-looking assholes.
You don't have to do this. You tell her there are other ways to help besides fighting. She stands up and rubs her eyes.
Maybe.
She says,
But this is my best option. I'm not gonna let them take away anyone else.
Back in space, cooking involved programming ration machines and putting dishes in the Lasermatic dishwasher because water was too precious to clean dishes with. But now you're growing more real food and trying to figure out how to cook with it. The cafeteria kitchens are bright and full of good smells. There's always something baking or boiling or frying. You take a deep breath in and just hold all of the deliciousness in your lungs. Chief Steward Anne, known to the kids as Antecedent, is in charge of everything in the living quarters. Running the children's creche, coordinating the cleaning bots, and of course cooking for the whole colony. It's a lot of work, but she's good at delegating to all the kids she has raised here, including you. But she's a big believer in learning by trying and doesn't mind if a few dinners are ruined in the process.
It looks like you're on your own this morning,
Aunt Annie says, welcoming you to the kitchen.
Don't you worry, though. We'll start you off with something easy.
She shows you to the kitchen nanoprinters.
Just press this button, and the ration machine will spit out a freshly pressed cake of soy rations. It's not tasty, but it's nutritious.
Then she shows you to the range. A large pot of brown stew is bubbling away.
Here is where the real magic happens,
she says proudly. She takes a ladle and spoons up some of the stew so you can have a taste.
See? For this stew, we added homegrown veggies and spices. This is what I love about cooking,
she sighs proudly.
Turning raw ingredients into something better, just by adding a little bit of work and a lot of love. Just like raising children. How about you, Soul? Why do you want to work in the kitchens?
I like to provide for others. It feels good to know a loved one is happy and well-fed because of you. You tell this to Aunt Anne, and she smiles indulgently.
That's a fantastic reason, Soul. We need a little happiness around here.
Aunt Anne sets you up with a few basic kitchen tasks and leaves you to it.
If you need help, I'll just be around the corner,
she says.
Or you could ask Congruence for advice. She has every recipe and method you could ever need, and she's an excellent teacher.
You quickly have your hands full with the sheer volume of food it takes to feed 100 people. Workers from the canteen shuttled back to pick up trays of soy rations and pots of stew at regular intervals. Somehow you keep up. You poke your head into the canteen at lunchtime to see what people think about the food. Seems like they like it. Maybe you're cut out to be a chef. The Vertumnalia Festival is a welcome day of normalcy in an otherwise chaotic year. Despite some lingering rivalry between the two factions, Vertumnalia is a chance for the Helios and the Stratos to come together and appreciate the bounty of the planet. At least, that's what the adults say. As Governor Lum takes the stage to address the colony, you can't help but notice the crowd has segregated itself according to their ship of origin. Rex shoots you away from over on the Strato side, and Nomi makes a silly face. Vase is surrounded by other young soldiers, all looking sharp in their Heliopause uniforms. With Cal standing beside you, you wonder if the two ships will ever feel like a colony. A fanfare plays over the square's announcement systems. Lum's honor guards do a complex drill with their drone rifles.
Greetings, people of Vertumna,
Lum says, his voice ringing out over the square.
We may be far from our beautiful Earth, but we can still celebrate and be thankful for what we have here. We've worked hard to save this beleaguered little colony from the brink of destruction, and should be proud of our work.
The Helios cheer. Your side of the square is more quiet.
I know some of you have been asking, Lum, how are you going to do it all by yourself? How are you going to run the colony, solve everyone's problems, turn this planet into a paradise, and look this good?
Lum strikes a pose to a smattering of polite applause.
Well, I have the answer for you,
he continues.
The old council made a lot of bad choices, like illegally leaving Earth. But I believe in second chances. So, I've appointed the original department heads to my own council, Lum's Council 2.0. Better not disappoint me.
He laughs and makes finger guns at the department heads at the foot of his podium.
Stay on your toes, Stratos. I also want to promise everyone here today that we're going to make Vertumna safe for humans,
Lum says.
The next time those bastard Xenos attack, we're gonna blow them to so many little pieces there won't be enough left to wipe off our boots. We've already got the defenses,
he says, gesturing broadly at the new, taller, thicker walls.
And we're building homes for everyone. Homes where people can raise children again, knowing that our military men and women are keeping us safe.
Big cheers from both sides this time. Some of the colonists around you even have tears in their eyes, especially those who lost family in the last attack. Lum goes on for a while, lionizing the heliopod's military strength and casting subtle digs at your failed colony experiment. Finally, the crowd disperses to set up the square for the afternoon festivities, some traditional and some new. At the tables, Aunt Anne and the kids are setting out the spread for dinner. There's an unimaginable amount of food, thanks to the Heliopause's huge ration surplus, and the piles upon piles of xeno meat from the hunting parties. For those who can't stomach it. Anne is all smiles, clearly making an effort to move on as Lum mandated, despite still mourning her lost son Calm. But not even the festive atmosphere can force a smile onto Moni's face. I miss my mom. Cal hauls a massive tureen of stew onto the table.
Yeah, me too.
He adds quietly.
She should have been here to see this. I think she'd be really proud of how hard we worked in geoponics.
The chime sounds to announce that the square is set up for the annual competitions. What do you choose this year? Bake Off. The Bake Off is a new challenge this year, in celebration of the great surplus of food. Today's theme is chili. Spicy bean stew. Not pixie beans, though. Cal adapts a gourmet earth dish with alien ingredients. Challenge! You make a chili that is so perfectly balanced, one of the judges cries, and not just from the spice level, you win the cooking competition! After the festivities, the mood in the colony is a lot lighter. You see people smiling easier, and often see mixed groups of Helios and Stratos socializing together. It feels like the first time people have actually let themselves relax. You're shooting the breeze with Cal in the shadow of the geoponics dome when he leans over and waves at someone over your shoulder.
Perk! Hey! Over here!
Perk jogs over to you. He's a heavy-set adult with tattoos sprawling up his arms that make him look like he's made of marble. He holds out a stack of tiffins wrapped in a sash.
Hey, you two. Seth and I were testing out recipes, and we ended up making too much. Figured I'd run some lunch over to you.
Cal takes the tiffins and opens the first one.
Lentil dal!
He exclaims, inhaling deeply.
No way!
Perk looks proud.
Rice in the second one, and a little something sweet in the third. You deserve it, with how hard you've been working out here. You eat up too, Soul. There's more than enough.
Perk leaves you to divide the spoils, and Cal goes right to the dessert.
Having 4 pounds is the best!
He mumbles, around a mouthful of sour sweet cake. Cal's mom, Auntie Tara, is in a relationship with 3 other colonists. Perk's the newest member of his family, but even then they've all been together for a while. Cal's always been surrounded by a lot of love at home. Cal swallows his food.
You know, sometimes I wonder if I'd want to date that many people. Like my mom does.
He muses.
Like, finding one person who wants to date you and having the courage to ask them out is already hard enough? Bruh, my palms are sweating just thinking about it. Besides,
Cal continues,
it works fine for my mom, but I kind of feel like if I find someone, I want to just be with them, you know? I want to put all my energy into making them happy.
You already make me happy. Cal's eyes go wide and he rubs the back of his neck.
I didn't mean that, but I didn't not mean it either.
He giggles and looks away, unable to meet your eye. The dal is sweet and fragrant, and tastes all the better for being made and delivered with love. You and Cal eat your fill before Cal excuses himself to go back to work. You overhear your dad talking to one of the other cultivators. He seems to be upset about something to do with the new governor and people from the Heliopause. When the other woman leaves, you have a chance to ask some of the burning questions you've had. Who are those new people? Your dad looks startled and tries to muster a friendly smile.
You overheard us, hey kiddo? Listen, Soul.
He hesitates and looks around nervously, as if afraid you're being watched.
You're just going to have to trust us adults on this one. There are things you're still too young to understand.
I am not too young.
I thought the same about myself once.
Your dad says gravely.
I was wrong. The Helios came here just like us, looking for a better life.
He tells you.
Some of them had other reasons too, but now that they're here, we have to learn how to work together. When your mother and I were young, on Earth, we learned a hard lesson.
He gives a grim smile.
We learned a lot of hard lessons. One was that it's safer to be led by one dangerous person than be attacked by an army of them.
He lets that sink in.
Another was that sometimes when adults tell you not to worry, you should listen to them. Go on. Enjoy your youth.
He gestures towards the heliopause.
Go get to know some of those new kids. I'm sure you'll find they're a lot like you.
Before you can say another word, your dad is called back to work. There's still so much to be done to rebuild the farms and geoponics greenhouses. And you can see people from the helio helping him. Maybe they aren't all that bad. Nomi is running around, making pew-pew noises at things like they're shooting imaginary lasers, which is fitting because that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, hey, Soul!
They say, when they notice you watching them.
Do you want to play Laser Fable? It's so fun!
I have a present for you.
Ooh!
Nomi exclaims, making grabby hands at the pretty crystal.
Happy birthday to me! I can't believe you remembered! Thank you!
Chief Surveyor Utopia stops you and Dis near the depot.
Feel that?
She asks. You can feel a kind of ominous, distant thumping, pulsing regularly through the ground. If you stand still, you can feel it vibrate up into your own body too, like a massive global pulse. Utopia says, checking a readout on her holopalm.
I reckon it's naturally occurring.
She concludes.
But it's giving me the willies all the same. You two better check it out. Mind you stick together and take readings on the way in case it's dangerous.
You and Dis look at each other, excited. You follow the thumping, now an audible noise growing louder, west, until you've roughly triangulated its location. You know you're getting close, but it sounds like it's coming from all around you, and your instruments aren't precise enough to help. Follow the sound. You find a machine? An ancient broken down machine. Like a small pyramid-shaped building from some kind of dark stone or bone that looks almost like it grew that way. Except, it isn't broken. It's just so very old and overgrown, it looks more like a pile of rubble and roots than a building or engine or whatever it was. Still, a thumping noise comes from inside it. The vibrations are strong here, making your guts feel weird. You don't notice at first, but there's a curious path on the ground moving away from the machine. A line half a meter wide, where the dirt is a little more worn and bare. It heads off in a straight line to the west. Or coming from the west. Could animals have made this path? Or the thumper itself? Marvel at it. You run your hand over its pitted, vibrating surface. How could something so unbelievably old still work? It's definitely not natural. You can even see something like writing carved deep into the not-quite-rock. Dis starts making an nts noise under his breath to the beat of the thumper. It's a pretty sick beat. Eventually, you head back to share your findings with Utopia.
Totally an alien civilization.
Dis insists. Utopia scratches her head.
I suppose. Maybe.
She says.
You said it looks ancient, right? Perhaps there could have been another civ here long ago. We have found other signs, but nothing active like this. It seems to be pointing west, or receiving something.
She snaps her fingers.
There's some right ugly ridgelines out there that have kept us from checking that direction. But we got gliders and motivation. That's half the battle.
She makes a note in her hollow palm.
I'll open up the western resting ridges for surveyors,
she says, then grins.
Whew, saying that 3 times fast.
Dis is right. It's definitely aliens. Dis nods solemnly. This little gazebo is set up as a waiting area for the automated transporters which trundle back and forth between here and the colony. A sign reads, Autobus Depot, Valley of Vertigo. Attention! Air filters mandatory in this zone. Fruit is abundant, but please identify species before harvesting as some species may object violently. Xenofauna may behave more aggressively in this area. Always approach wild animals with caution. Go home. Are you sure? This will end the month. Go home. You pass a group of soldiers from the heliopause leaving the garden. One of them eyes you with disdain, but the rest ignore you. Inside, Cal is scowling as he rakes up a planted bed. His expression softens when he sees you, but not by much.
Hey, Sol.
He says,
Did you see those jerks? They're always sniffing around here, trying to start a fight with me. I think their leader's that mouthy kid Vase.
He leans one arm on his rake.
Whatever. Joke's on them. I ain't gonna play their little soldier games.
What are you working on? Cal is looking a little sickly.
Well, I found this really pretty flower growing in the garden. I've never seen it before.
You take a look at it and soon begin to feel sick yourself. Wait, is this plant radioactive?
What? It's radioactive?
Cal says, backing up quickly.
Good thing you knew that. What do we do?
You're not sure, but if you study it in the geoponics lab, you might be able to figure out how to neutralize the radiation. Cal looks like he's being run ragged.
Hey, Sol.
He says, leaning against a pallet of building supplies scavenged from the heliopause.
What's up? I don't have a lot of time. I gotta get these over to geoponics, and then we gotta get plants in the ground.
I found something you might like.
Oh wow, that looks delicious.
Cal exclaims.
Thanks for the birthday gift, Sol. You know I love to eat.
You see a notice on the engineering holoweb. Chief Engineer Instance needs someone to help with after-school tutoring. Literally anyone who isn't a complete idiot will do because she's desperate. Please apply. Apply for the job. You tell Dr. Instance you're interested in the job. She looks up from her holopalm like she's just noticed you exist.
Yes, you'll do,
she says, nodding.
The younger, slower kids have trouble keeping up with congruence sometimes. You mostly just have to pat them on the back now and then and stop them from wandering off when they're supposed to be studying. No offense, but anyone with a pulse can do it.
You wait for further instruction, instant sighs shooing you away dismissively.
You know where the classrooms are. Just come when you're not doing whatever nonsense teenagers do here.
I found something you might like.
Well, I've had better birthday gifts.
Mars sighs, rubbing one of the petals.
But this will look nice in my hair, I think. Thank you.
Back in the lab, you have all the right equipment to properly examine the radioactive plant you found. Maybe you can find a way to protect yourself from them so you don't need to drag a radiation-proof enviro suit with you every time you go to that part of the planet. Radiation poisoning isn't the killer it used to be on Earth. With medbeds, you can flush out deadly doses of radiation in a few hours. It'd still make you really sick though, and high enough doses could kill you before you're even able to reach a medbed. How confident are you that you know how to protect yourself? I think I'll be okay. You take a careless approach to protecting yourself from the radiation. It can't be so bad that you won't be able to get to medbed in time, right? You wear gloves and a face shield and get to work. After about a few hours, you start feeling dizzy. The dizziness quickly becomes nausea, and while you're puking your guts out in a bucket, you have to admit that you're probably feeling the effects of radiation poisoning. Radiation poisoning? Who could have predicted that? You're not done with your experiment, though. Give up. You don't think you can handle any more radiation. Maybe you can come back again later after collecting more samples. Vase is standing by the downed heliopause, hands on his hips as he surveys the colony.
Damn,
He says, smirking.
you all used to live like this. It's a good thing we are here now.
Here, I have something for you. Vase cracks a small smile when he sees your gift.
Birthday cake.
He asks, incredulously.
Do you think I'm a child? Am I supposed to blow out the candles and make a wish now? It's time for your end-of-term project! You, Tang, and Cal are all ready to prove that you're capable scientists.
Seeing as everyone works together in the colony, you're expected to come up with a project that the three of you can agree on. You can already tell that's going to be a problem.
We should do a genetics experiment,
Insists Tang.
I have access to the lab around the clock, and I'm already in there every day. It'd be so simple just to come up with an experiment for something I'm already working on. And efficient. It's the perfect choice.
Cal considers.
I don't know. Lab work is only half the picture, you know. I think we should get to geoponics for some hands-on biology. Lemur is almost ready to give birth, and she had trouble during her last calving.
He says. You think he's talking about a float cow.
We should volunteer to monitor her around the clock and document the process. Then we can help deliver the calf.
Tang looks disgusted.
Absolutely not.
She sneers.
I am not getting my hands all up in some float cow's guts just because you want to play farmer instead of scientist.
She pokes her finger into Cal's chest.
Where are your data points? What's your hypothesis? Do you have a control group? Where's the science, Cal?
You aren't better than others just because you work indoors?
Cal snaps. It's so rare to see someone actually get under his skin.
Every day, I live and breathe biology, genetics, medicine, and ecology just like you. Science isn't just about doing experiments. Observation is important too. So is compassion and empathy.
Tang scoffs. They both look at you. What do you want to do for your project? A genetics experiment.
I knew you'd see it in my way,
Tang says smugly. Cal isn't happy, but you know he'll still do his best. Start the project. Your experiment goes off without a hitch. Over the course of the month, you work under Tangent's close supervision on something that she won't explain completely, but has utmost confidence in. You titrate, precipitate, filter, and distill your hearts out. Chief Engineer Instance recognizes Tang's work immediately.
This is impeccable, Tang.
She praises her.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see what you do with this. Here are some kudos for this valuable work.
To the rest of you, she begrudgingly awards you a pass. You spot Tangent leaning against the wall outside engineering. She's yawning, rubbing her eyes, and staring off into space. She's startled as you walk up.
Oh, Sol. I was just taking a short break.
Yawns are infectious. Join in and yawn too.
Did you stay up all night too?
She asks.
I don't even remember when I slept last. It might have been a few days ago?
You haven't slept in 2 days?
More like 3.
She replies, then pauses for another jaw-cracking yawn.
But as I said, I'm tired. Even Mindhand's body has limitations.
You look at her quizzically.
I don't need to sleep as much as other people. It's a genetic... what's it?
She says, foggily.
You know, a DNA enhancement. I guess sometimes even I forget to do it. I should set myself a reminder. Hollow. Add the schedule. Sleeping nightly. 2300. For 3 hours.
Her holopalm emits a tone in response. Tangent nods, sleepily.
That should do it.
She murmurs. Her eyes are practically closed. Find her some place to take a nap. Tang follows you obediently into the engineering wing, too tired to protest. You slip into Mudbay to grab a blanket and pillow off the shelf. By the time you return, Tang's already fallen asleep curled up in an egg chair in the waiting area. You gently place the blanket over her, and she hums happily before going slack with much-needed sleep. Tang frowns as a unit of soldiers from Heliopause jog past her.
An entire ship of thick-skulled, warmongering idiots.
She sneers.
What a relief. Surely all of our problems will simply go away if we fire lasers at them.
Here, I have something for you.
It seems you remembered my birthday. How thoughtful of you.
Tang says, accepting the flower with a dubious look.
I'll set this flower aside to analyze later. I'm interested in the properties of autumnal flowers.
I hope you find it useful. She turns to walk away, then remembers herself.
Thank you.
She adds, almost as an afterthought. Dis stands at the mouth of his drainage sewer hideout, his arms crossed as he studies it from the outside.
Do you think they got in this way?
He asks, quietly.
There's a grate farther in. I haven't gone in there to check yet.
Does this interest you? He plucks at the roots for a bit, but then his shoulders slump.
Did you give these to me because it's my birthday?
He asks.
I actually hate it when people make a big deal about my birthday. It's, look, maybe you should go do something nice for Tang. She actually likes the attention.
You catch Dis on a ridge overlooking the wilderness, bobbing his head along to something playing through his hearspeak. He doesn't notice you walk up. He jumps when you tap him on the shoulder, and scrambles to turn off his holopalm.
Don't sneak up on me like that!
He grumbles, then flops backward on the grass to look up at you.
Man, I was just getting to the good part of the song.
What are you listening to? Dis looks away.
Just some old music from Earth. You probably wouldn't like it.
Try me. You sit down beside Dis and extend your hand to link your holopalms. Dis stares at you for a few seconds before pressing his palm to yours, and music floods your brain through your hearspeak. Dis takes his hand back and weaves his fingers together, timid.
I listen to a lot of Earth music.
He says.
Do you like it?
He asks. I love this band! Dis cracks a small smile. relieved.
Good.
He says,
It's my favorite right now. I always listen to the same album on repeat. It's comfort music. I really like her voice.
He stares into his lap.
Sometimes I feel like the lyrics are about me.
He admits.
They're just so deep. Like my soul really gets this kind of music. But don't tell anyone, okay? It makes me feel better thinking that someone knows my pain. Even if it's just a dead Earth woman.
Sounds deep, man. Dis nods and closes his eyes.
Yeah.
He replies,
I have a lot of time to think. Not like everyone else here.
You lie back in the grass and listen to Dis's music for a while. Just enjoy the time with Dis. You and Dis lie in the grass and listen to music, trading different songs back and forth until dark and the bell rings to close the gates for the night. The old lounge is toast. What was left over from the attack last glow was destroyed in the crash. The new lounge just isn't the same. You miss the beanbags and the walls covered with art you scrawled as kids. Someday, this place will feel like the heart of the colony again. But right now, it just reminds you of how chaotic and horrible this past year has been. Everyone in geoponics is on edge during glow. It's close to the colony walls, so if there's an attack on this side, you might lose years and years of progress on these fields, or worse, the geoponics domes. There's nothing to do about it except hope that the defenses are strong enough to hold. That sense of helplessness makes it hard to work. You're relaxing in your quarters with your dad when you hear the colony siren. The enemy is here! Your dad looks up from his novel.
Huh, seems early this year. We should head to the shelter in the lounge.
You've been drilling on new evacuation procedures for the past month. There's no need to be a hero now that there are so many new soldiers from Helio. It's probably best if you just follow instructions and head to the lounge with your dad. Go to the lounge. The mood in the lounge is anxious. Even though the colony's defenses are much better this year, over hushed conversations you can hear younger children crying inconsolably. You look for your friends in the crowd. Mars and Tangent are here, quietly reading something on Tang's holopalm. Cal is trying to entertain some kids with his juggling tricks. The few civilian kids from the Heliopause are here too, including Rex and Nomi. Vase and Moni are absent, probably serving guard duty. You settle in to pass the time. Someone brings word that it's not a faceless out there, at least. You hear a few loud booms from outside, so strong you can feel their shockwaves in the floor. People gasp and cover their heads, but nothing else happens. After the attack, Lum gathers everyone in the lounge and holds a big celebration for the soldiers. There's feasting and drinkings and songs of valor. And as the party goes on long into the night, some drift away into pairs, or more. Mars and Rex keep the dancing going. Even Moni seems to relax, especially when the other cadets invite her to drink with them. Tonight, everyone seems convinced that this victory means the colony will be safe forever. Maybe it will be. You sure want to believe it too.